So, so originally, Jiva Goswami, he composed the Brihat Harinamamrit Vyakaran, the full-fledged version, which consisted of around 3200 sutras. Then, from Gopi Pranthan Prabhu's school, so devotees there, they compiled around 1200 sutras out of those 3200 sutras. So personally, I studied the Brihat version in the Gaudiya Math, and it took me around 3 to 4 years. But in general, devotees, they are like, they are busy with many services and many things. So it's difficult to devote that much time in general, like 3 to 4 years. So they have formulated a Madhyama version out of the Brihat one, which would take, 1.5 year or maximum 2 years of study. So we'll be studying Madhyama one, and there is just a slight difference between the both. So the 1200 plus sutras, they are like the crux of all the sutras of the Brihat version. So first of all, we should be clear that our prayojan or purpose of studying is, of course, to read and understand the verses and the commentaries of the acharyas, right? Is there any other motto? Hands up. Of course, pronunciation, Prabhu said, Nahush Prabhu said like that. So mainly read, understand the texts. So that purpose will be fulfilled by studying the Madhyama version as well. So there are two volumes. The first volume which we are studying from is consists of the Mangalacharan, which we'll study today. Then we have 7 chapters altogether in Vyakaran. So the first chapter is Sangya Sandhi Prakarana. So Sangya refers to terminology, and Sandhi refers to the phonetic combinations. Nama Prakaran is the second, which deals with noun and their declensions. Then Akhyat Prakaran refers to verbs and their declension, the forms. Then volume 2 will be dealing with Karaka Prakaran, which means the meanings of the case endings. We'll go into depth of all these topics when we come and deal with all those topics. Then Kridanta Prakaran are the participles, Samasa compounds, and the last one is Tadhit Prakaran. Prakaran refers to chapter. So nouns made with the Tadhit suffix. So there are already many grammatical systems like Panini, Katantar, Saraswat, Mugdha, Bodh, Vyakaran, ityadi, before Jiva Goswami compiled Harinamamrit. So he himself studied all other systems very well, scrutinizingly. And although the content was very good in all other systems, especially Panini, but he observed that it was too complicated for a general, a general layman to understand the grammar. So what he did, he took the essential parts out of all the grammars, especially the Panini system, and he compiled Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, I will say, in a more systematic and modernized way, topical uh, presentations of each chapter. And they are not mixed up. They are like separate topics, separate chapters. So studying Harinamamrit is really easy and it's really efficient. And I will say it's less time consuming as well. So few of the advantages of Harinamamrit. And of course, it's written by our Acharya, Jiva Goswami. We'll just jump into the Mangala Charanam. Here it goes. Of Sri Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, Shri Shri Radha Krishnabhyam Namaha. Krishna Mupasitumasya Srajamiva Namavalim Tanavai Tvaritam Vitare Desha Tat Sahityadi Jamodam. So this is Jiva Goswami writing. To worship Krishna, I'll compose as a garland for him a Namavali, a set of his own sweet names. This Namavali will quickly bestow the types of bliss derived from being with Krishna, from poetry about Krishna, and from other things that pertain to him. Okay. In order to worship Krishna, Krishnam upasitum. Upasitum means in order to worship. Krishna means Lord Krishna. Uh, Asya namavalim srajam iva tanavai. Asya kasya Krishnasya, of Krishna. So Nama means the names, and Avali refers to series of, like Chandravali refers to a series of moons. So Namavali refers to a series of names of Krishna. So in order to worship Krishna, Jiva Goswami is composing Tanavai, a garland. Srajam refers to a garland which is made up of or composed of the names of Lord Krishna. So it's about the Harinamamrit Vyakaranam. So this garland is Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, which is composed of the names of Lord Krishna. And what is the prayojan of doing this? The mukhya prayojan is to worship Krishna. Amazingly, we are studying Vyakaranam. Jiva Goswami is writing a Vyakaran. But still, the mukhya prayojan of writing Vyakaran is not understanding Vyakaran. That is Gauna, that is secondary objective. The primary objective, even in grammar, is still to worship Krishna. Means that's the beauty of the Vaishnavism. Everywhere, the prime objective is to worship Krishna. So, Krishna upasitam. So, Twaritam vitaret esha. So, it should be quickly distributed or bestowed upon the jivas, those who are interested. I will say those who are Brahmanically inclined, especially, because not everyone would like to be a part of understanding Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, depending on their inclinations and proclivities. So, whoever is interested, is inclined, they should be quickly given this garland composed of the holy names of Krishna. And what will happen by accepting this Harinamamrit Vyakaranam? When we understand, so what will happen? Tat sahityadi ja amodam. So when we understand the grammar, then we'll be able to uncover or discover the Sanskrit texts, the commentaries, the shlokas, and the meaning will come forth. And that when we know the meanings, then we relish, the shlokas, their meanings in depth. So that refers to tat sahityadi ja amodam. So by understanding Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, by studying it, we are able to uncover the scriptures and the rasa out of them. So this is the first Mangala Charan of Jiva Goswami in Harinamamrit. One thing is, someone might say that Abhinnatvat Nama Namino, there is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's names. So just like in Damodar Leela, we know that it was difficult for Mother Yashoda to bind Krishna, right? But so similarly, so there is no difference between Krishna and his names. So as it is difficult to bind Krishna, it is difficult to bind Krishna's names as well. So how come Jiva Goswami is saying that he is binding Krishna's name into a garland? Is that out of ego? Someone may object. But in the commentaries here, they say that it's impossible to bind Lord's names without the Lord's Kripa Shakti, the mercy potency. So it's the mercy of the Lord that enables everyone, the acharyas and everyone, that the names get bound in a particular fashion, in a particular manner. And in this case, it's the Harinamamrit Vyakaranam. So, so thus Jiva Goswami prays for the Lord's mercy so that he can bind, put together all the names in one place. So this series of names will quickly bestow upon a reader the bliss born of Srimad Bhagavatam and of related works. So this we have discussed. Because when we understand grammar, then we'll be able to uncover and yeah the truths of the verses of the scriptures which will bestow upon us yena atma samprasidati, then the atma will be samprasidati, suprasidati. So all these commentary, you are most welcome to read them in weekdays whenever you get time. So when writing an introduction to a Sanskrit book, one not only has to invoke auspiciousness, but also has to state the book's four essential components, which is technically known as Anubandha Chatushtaya. The eligible person, which refers to Adhikari, the relationship, which is Sambandha, the topic, which is Vishaya, the purpose, Prayojana. These four are known as the Anubandha Chatushtaya. So these four must be indicated at the beginning of an authoritative book. So for this book, who is the Adhikari? The Vaishnavas are the qualified readers. So who is the Adhikari of Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, who is able to understand? Vaishnava. One has to be a devotee of Lord to understand this. Because unless one is a devotee, he may not have faith in Lord's names or even in the Lord himself, what to speak of having faith on his names. And if he doesn't even have faith on Lord's names, then what to speak of studying something which is based upon Lord's names? Won't make any sense to such a person. So only a person who has got faith, I will say not only faith, a dridha shraddha will go for Harinamamrit Vyakaranam. So this is Adhikaris are the Vaishnavas. What is the Sambandha? This book has a relationship with Krishna, as indicated in this verse by the word Krishna. Jiva Goswami explains in Tattva Sandarbha Anucheda 9 that in the context of Anubandha Chatushtaya, Sambandha means the book's relationship with Krishna, which is the relationship between the describer and the described. Tad Vachya Vachakata Lakshana Sambandha. So there are two things. One is Vachya and another is Vachaka. Vachaka refers to someone or something which is describing something else. Vachaka refers to someone who is describing a person or an object. And Vachya is the thing which is being described by Vachaka. So, okay. So in this case, Vachaka is the Harinamamrit Vyakaranam because it's describing about the Lord directly or indirectly. And Vachya is who is being described? Krishna. So that is the Sambandha here. The topic is grammar. The third Anubandha Chatushtaya was Vishaya. What is the Vishaya of this book? The topic is grammar. We are studying grammar, as shown in the next verse by the word Vyakaranam. And the fourth one is, what is the purpose, Prayojan of this book? The primary purpose is bhakti, as indicated in this verse by the word upasitum, to worship. The secondary purpose is knowledge of grammar, a knowledge helpful for studying holy texts like Srimad Bhagavatam and so on. Okay? So you may ask anything in between even if something means not clear. So that was Mangalacharana 1. Now we move ahead to Shloka 2. Now someone may object, to Jiva Goswami, that what was the need of writing another system of grammar when there were many already existing before compiling Harinamamrit? What was a need? Like Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita, in the preface, I think he writes the same thing, that many people would ask him that what's the need of writing another commentary on Bhagavad Gita when they are already existing. So same way, if someone may object Jiva Goswami, then he is giving the answer. Ahat jalpita jatitam drishtva shabdanushasana harinama balitam vyakaranam vaishnavarthama jinmaha. Having carefully examined many grammatical works, all entangled with useless statements, for the sake of the Vaishnavas, we are compiling a grammar richly endowed with Lord Hari's holy names. So, this is the reason why Jiva Goswami attempted to write or compile a new system. Ahat jalpita jatitam shabd anushasana stomam drishtva. Drishtva means having seen, having observed, having scrutinizingly studied, having examined all other systems of grammars which were like ahat jalpita jatitam. Jati, okay, we know the word jata, right? We say jata. It's like the matted hairs, the which are difficult to be, undone. We cannot just undo the matted hairs. It's it's that we just have to shave it out. Then only we can get some relief. So Jiva Goswami is mentioning that all of the system of grammars, the rules, the sutras, everything. Okay, first of all, other systems, they might be having the full content, but the content is managed or is organized in such a way that it's topsy-turvy. Means you cannot just find it out without the help of many commentaries. You have to read and understand many commentaries in order to understand the way the sutras are written, the way the grammar is organized. That's why it's jatitam. It's really like matted hairs, matted sutras, all complications. And it's ahat jalpitam. Ahat refers to useless, and jalpitam, we say prajalpa, atyahara prayasascha prajalpa. So the same root, jalpita. So the statements there, Jiva Goswami says, it's useless. Because for Vaishnavas, anything minus Krishna and Krishna's name is useless. It's a simple rule in the Vaishnava Samaj, Vaishnava society. Anything which is devoid of Krishna or anything in relationship with Krishna is just a zero. So that's why Harinama Vali Valitam Vyakaranam Vaishnavartham Achinmaha. That's why Jiva Goswami is saying that we are compiling this Vyakaranam, this grammar, which is Harinama Vali Valitam. Valitam can be Yuktam, which consists of the series of the holy names of Lord Hari. For whom? Who is the target audience of Jiva Goswami? Vaishnavartham. For the sake of the Vaishnavas. And if Vaishnavas do not study, at least a part of Vaishnavas, a group of Vaishnavas, if not all, then it will be a great failure for Jiva Goswami. Of course, means we shouldn't say that, but if we do not study, or some of us do not study it, then his efforts, his endeavor would go in vain. So those, at least I say, who are Brahmanically inclined, who would like to dive deep into the scriptures, should study Harinamamrita. And that's why personally I'm trying to promote it as much as I can. So that's why Vaishnavartham Achinmaha. Okay.
Prabhu, one question.
Yes, Prabhuji.
When we find the purports, we find three words different, which are Briti, Amrita, and Samshodini. What's the difference, or what is the meaning of each word?
Okay. So, so first of all, the format of Harinamamrit Vyakaranam is such. First of all, we will have sutras, which are like the formulas, or let's say they're like the shlokas. So written by Jiva Goswami. Then we have Vritti. Vritti is the commentary of Jiva Goswami on his own sutras, and Vritti is in Sanskrit. Then we have two commentaries. One is Bala Subodhini Tika, and the second one is Amrita Swadini Tika. So Bala Subodhini, in short, they write it as Bala, and Amrita Swadini write it as Amrita. So they are done by two acharyas, like long after Jiva Goswami, disappeared and so on. So it's like their thesis on Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, their additional comments on each sutra, each vritti. That is Amrita Swadhani and Bala Subodhini.
Who is commenting?
Okay, one is Hare Krishna Acharya, and the second one is I just forgot his name. Today morning I was taking his name. It's somewhere here written.
Okay.
We'll just see. And so, and the fourth one is Sankshodhini Tika. So that's done by Matsya Avatar Prabhu. And so whatever he observed was not covered in either of the commentaries, and which should be covered in order to clarify a particular point or subject. So he has created Sankshodhini Tika of his own, Matsya Avatar Prabhu, and it's very good actually. So again, I invite all of you to study all these commentaries, like in the weekdays or whenever you get time. They're really enlivening and enlightening. What is that, Prabhu?
The comment. I'm writing all the sutras.
Okay, here you go. So Amrita says, actually, I want to discuss all this in detail, but we cannot actually. So just few points. Ahata refers to Atyantika Shreya Rahita. We read Ahat Jalpita Jatitam. So Ahat refers to, he said, useless in synonyms, but Atyantika Shreya Rahita, which is devoid of any ultimate good. And Jalpita means Vachana, statements. So Drishtva Visheshena Alochya, having specifically examined, more insight into each word. Yeah. Then the third one, Vyakarane Marunivriti Jeevan Lubdha Sadagha Sangvignaha Harinamamritametat Pibantu Shatadhavagahantam. Let those who hanker for water in the desert of Sanskrit grammar and who are therefore constantly beset with difficulties drink the nectar of Lord Hari's names and let them dive into this nectar again and again.
He
So,
doesn't hold back about the other
yeah, I
grammarians.
mean, and so like even in the Upasanhar, which means the end of the book, like there, Jiva Goswami literally he I'll say blast the other systems, Paniniyam, Haniniyam, and it just goes on saying about other systems. Means personally, initially when I read that part, I was like, why is a Vaishnava behaving in such a manner? That was my personal like observation or thought. But then gradually I came to the conclusion that Vaishnavas are so attached or intoxicated to Krishna and anything related to Krishna that anywhere where they don't find any touch of Krishna, They just cannot digest that, and they will speak something about that. So
Well, the other thing is it holds other people back from coming to Krishna, like, or from reading this literature. Like, it makes it difficult for other people who are, then so many people like stop reading the Sanskrit grammar and then they can't get into Krishna's literature. So if it's keeping other people away from Krishna, then that's a reason.
yeah, that is also a point, because when we study a language, especially Sanskrit, so it's not a language, just a language. We study philosophy with the language. So if you go to Varanasi and places like that, so there you'll get to learn Sanskrit along with the impersonal philosophy, mostly, like, prominently. So yes, you're right. So they get you away from Krishna, or from the personal feature of the Lord, I'll say. Especially in India, Sanskrit means Sanskrit plus the impersonal philosophy, the impersonal aspect of the Lord. So Vyakarane Maruni Vriti. So all other systems of grammars, they are compared with, a desert. And desert means, of course, a dry thing. So those who are looking for some life, some water in those deserts, and who are constantly being afflicted while searching for that life, for water in such deserts. So Jiva Goswami is sort of advertising, promoting, or welcoming that all such students should come here, and they should drink Harinamamritam etat. Etat Harinamamritam pibantu. That you please all come here and drink this nectar of the holy names. And how many times shall I drink once? If someone may ask, no, no, Shatdha. You drink it hundreds of times. You drink it, and then avagahantam. Then you just dive into it. You drink it as well as you dive into it, which means that you just consume it in such a way that it's all around you, inside you, outside you. Ito harinamamritam, parato harinamamritam, something like that. So avagahantam. That's why if you see logically, it doesn't make much sense to say pibantu and avagahantam, two verbs, with having a different meaning at one place. Because pibantu means you drink, avagahantam means you dive. So if I give you a cup of full of water, and I say, okay, drink it, drink it, drink it, and then I say, no, now dive into it, that would sound a little foolish, isn't it? But here Jiva Goswami is saying that this Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, you drink it again and again, and if you are not fully satiated even after drinking it, then you dive into it. So the main point is just to, you know, just to do the angikara of Harinamamrit Vyakaranam within the heart, the brain, and so on, to accept it. Now, someone may object that Lord Hari's name, Lord Krishna's names, should be used, in order to worship Krishna in a direct sense. What is that name for Navdha Bhakti? Direct, they are direct angas. I just forgot the term. That the Navdha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Ityadi, they are the direct angas, limbs of devotional service. Now, someone may object that why are you using Lord's names for a secondary purpose? Isn't that an offense? Someone may object like that. Then Jiva Goswami is quoting Srimad Bhagavatam's one of the famous verse. Sanketyam parihasyam va stobham helanameva va Vaikunthanam Grahanam Asheshagharam Viduhu. Quite a famous verse from 6th canto. One who chants the holy names of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sense, even if he chants indirectly, which is Sanketyam, to indicate something else. Secondly, if he chants jokingly, Parihasyam. Thirdly, if he chants, for musical entertainment, Stobham. And the fourth one is even neglectfully, Helenam. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. The point is, Jiva Goswami is saying, okay, yes, the usage of the names of the Lord is not primarily to worship him. Even though he mentioned in the beginning, but still if someone object, then he's saying, okay, I'm not using the names in order to, achieve Krishna Prema directly. I'm using it secondarily. Jiva Goswami accepts that point. But he says that it's not an offense to use Lord's names secondarily. Even if he does chant Krishna's name even once in either of these indirect ways, then all his sins, they are eradicated, deteriorated. So for example, all the vowels in Harinamamrit, so Jiva Goswami names them as, generally they are known as Swara Varnas, if you are familiar with Swara Varnas. Jiva Goswami names them to be Sarveshwaras. U. So he named Swara Varnas to be Sarveshwaras, gave Krishna's name or Lord's name to that particular aspect, a group. If you go to places in India like Ayodhya, Haridwar, and so on, Rishikesh. So salt, so what would they say to salt? If anyone knows, they will say Ramras. To the salt, they will say Ramras. Ramras. So means Ramras and salt. So it's Sanketyam. To indicate salt, they are using Krishna's name or Lord Rama's names. So like Ajamil, his was also an example of Sanketyam. So similarly, if Jiva Goswami is using Krishna's name to indicate something else than Krishna, it's calculated inside the Sanketya category and it's not an offense. Rather, it's a stepping stone, all the sins get eradicated and so on. So there is no harm and loss in doing such act. So that's how these 4 verses were the Mangalacharan verses. And moving ahead, we'll be beginning the first chapter. So if there is anything we can discuss, otherwise we'll move ahead. Any objection?
Which chanda is this shloka?
This is Anushtup.
Anushtup.
Yeah, Anushtup. Okay, so we move ahead to the first chapter.
I had read the Mangalacharan before when you first put the PDF, and I found the commentary a little bit complicated. Like he was talking about the prosody of these Mangalacharan verses and how there were 27 and 32, and there were light syllables and heavy syllables, and I
just means personally I don't get into that part of the verses just to avoid complications.
Yeah, okay. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay.
So chapter 1 is Sangya Sandhi Prakaranam. Prakaranam again refers to chapter. Sangya refers to the definitions, the terminologies, and Sandhi are the combinations of letters, phonetic combinations. So even in this, we'll first do the Sangya Prakaran, which deals with the terminology. So now on, you're expected to memorize sutras. So generally, the trend is that the number of sutras you memorize, that much number of sutras will be studying in the class. This was what would happen in my school. So the number of sutras I would memorize, then my teacher would ask me to recite the sutras, and that much only he will teach me, whether they are 2, 5, 10, 20, doesn't matter. So, but in this case, I have fixed, because we are doing twice a week, so 10 sutras per class at least. 10 sutras per class, you try to memorize, which means 20 sutras in a week, because I have calculated, made a time frame of the whole course. So if we do 20 sutras in a week, then we'll finish or complete the whole thing in around 15 months. And so means, of course, we can do 2 sutras a week, 5 sutras a week, then it will just prolong the course, and then we'll become lethargic simply. So 10
Prabhu, one question
Yes, Prabhu.
regarding the studying of the shlokas. Um, just like for curiosity, like have you learned them all, or you studied them and after maybe a couple of months, the first one you studied, you forget them, you forgot about them, but you still have the the knowledge or the understanding of them? Because I started reciting, and when I got to the 15th, maybe I'm not so fresh with the 8th or the 6th one. So like this, if I go 3 per day, maybe after 2 months I will start to forget the first ones, no?
So we
So
are
maybe if you
coming.
can tell us your system of study, because more in morning time, like maybe I can dedicate 45 minutes or 1 hour to study. So if you could tell us a little bit, instruct us about how you study them, what's your system? Do you recite them in in a high voice, or what's your system?
Okay, so nice point. So happily, we are, myself and Lokaram Prabhu, we are preparing a 5 to 10 minutes video, and the traditional way of memorizing the sutras. And even an adult can memorize, let's say, 50 to 60 sutras or 50 to 60 shlokas in a week. And like, it's a traditional style of doing it. And I think by tomorrow, we'll post that video in the group. We're recording a video. So, and you all can see that, and it will really be helpful. Okay, Akrur Prabhu? So we have already started working on that, and tomorrow we'll post that. So, like how to memorize the sutras, so that they are in our brain for a long time. Of course, one thing is that if you do not teach after learning, then after a couple of years, the sutras will vanish from your brain, but the impressions will remain in your brain, and their impression plus the process of their application will remain in the brain. That is also one point, because when we don't teach, we are not like into it after we study it, then things, because it's Kali Yuga and everything, sakale neya mahata yogo nashta, everything gets nashta. So that's why I encourage that if you're studying, you also teach after you study, and it will remain alive. And plus, Harinamamrit Vyakaran won't be extinct anymore. So, okay, Prabhu. Narayanadudbhutoyam Varnakramaha. This series of Varnas, the Sanskrit alphabet, appeared from Narayana. Okay. So this is the vritti of Jiva Goswami, his own commentary on his own sutras. Now one may ask, what was the need of writing extra vritti? He could have written the same thing in the sutras, but the sutras are meant to be as short as possible. And if there is some additional points, it has to be written separately. So I, u, re, re, a, I, o, au, and aha. ka kha ga ghanga cha cha ja jhangnya ta tha da dhana ta tha da dhana pa pha ba bha ma ya ra la va sha sh sa ha ksha. So all these letters. Ete varnaha aksharani. These are known as either varnas or aksharas. Okay. Esham udbhava sthanani. Now Jiva Goswami is going into articulation or pronunciation of the letters, and we will also get into it because it's important. A ka varga ha visarganam kantha. Okay, let me open something. There are 5 places in the mouth where from we pronounce the letters. Are we able to see this? Is everyone okay with the Devanagari script? Okay. The places of pronunciation, they say. 5 places. The first one is the kantha, the throat. The second place is the murdha. Murdha is the cerebral. Third place is the talu, the palatal. Fourth, danta, the teeth. The fifth one is the oshtha, the lips. So, a ka varga ha visarganam kantha. The ka varga refers to ka, kha, ga, gha, and nga. All these letters, they are pronounced from here. Ka, kha. If you just try saying them out just now, ka, kha, ga. It should come like this. The tongue should touch here. Ka, kha. Is it happening?
Yes, Prabhu. So are you going to give us this PowerPoint too?
Okay, I'll post it. Means I can.
I could transliterate. I mean, does everyone know Devanagari?
I'll share it in the group.
Prabhu,
Yes.
is it more the back part of the tongue or the middle? More towards the back part of the mouth of the tongue?
It's the middle part. Like,
The middle?
yeah, the middle of the tongue, I'll say. So yes, ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, and a, they're also the same place. Little difference. Then a ka varga, ha visarganam, ha, even ha. The tongue goes in the same direction, and visarga is the same. So these varnas are known as kanthya varnas. Kanthya. Kanthya because they are pronounced from the throat. That's why they are kanthya. Then the second is cha varga. So cha varga is pronounced from talavya. So the numbering is wrong here, but the talavya is this one. Just behind the upper teeth. Just behind the upper teeth. Just behind the upper teeth. So if you just try saying cha, just please try to say cha, cha, ja, jha. So the front of the tongue is touching just behind the upper teeth. That is the palate, talu. Is it happening? Ch, ch, j, j, ñ. Even this part, this letter, we struggle to pronounce this, but it's the same thing. The tongue should touch the same place, and it's ñ. Ch, ch, j, j, ñ. Simple. So these varnas are known as talavya varnas. Plus the letter ya, the same place, and the letter sh, the talavya sh. Sh, like sh in Shakuni, and so on. The same place, talavya, sh. Okay. Moving ahead. Murdhanyas. The ta varga. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. Now what happens is the tongue, it gets, it twists a bit, and it touches the upper roof in the middle behind the palate, behind the talu. So this was talu, behind the teeth, and even behind that is the cerebral, they say, which is the murdha. So if you try pronouncing ta, tha, da, dha, na, so the tongue is touching this point. Is it happening? Yeah. So ta, tha, da, dha, na. Now try doing one thing. First say ch, then say ta. You'll see the movement of the tongue, upwards, backwards, upwards, backwards. So ch, if this is my mouth, so ch, ta, ch, ta, ch, ta. It's taking a move. There is a movement. So likewise. So ta varga, even the letter ra in Rama, ra, and the letter sh, the sh in Krishna, they are also murdhanya varnas, sh. Generally, the sh we pronounce in Krishna is the palatal sh. Generally, what we pronounce. Okay, let me just show this to you. So this is the actual way to write, Krishna in diacritics with these diacritic marks. But what we normally pronounce Krishna, if we write like that, it would be this. This is what we generally pronounce. Krishna, we say Krishna, Krishna. So especially while pronouncing this sh, the tongue, it touches the palate, then the cerebral. So while pronouncing this sh, the tongue must take a twist, and it should touch the cerebral, then the palate. And it takes a little effort, then touching the palate. So we should take note of that. So it's not Krishna, it's Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Mahabahu, ityadi. Okay.
Usually when I introduce the Mahamantra to people for the first time, I say Kur as in ticker.
What is that?
Ticker. It's an English word, so usually I'm introducing it to English-speaking people. So as in sticker or ticker. So
Okay.
that's to not to say kri, but kur.
Yeah, I mean, a newcomer is allowed to do anything, to speak anything. Like when a newborn baby, when he starts speaking after a while, cha, pa, whatever he speaks. So there is a function. Oh, baby started speaking. When after a couple of years, if he speaks the same thing, then the same person will criticize him for speaking the same thing. Who appreciated?
But it isn't any more difficult in English to say "cr" than to say "cr" because it's a schwa sound. It exists in the English language. So why teach people the wrong pronunciation from the beginning? That's why I try to teach the correct one.
So yes, Krishna.
Is it the Cree sound or crew sound? Is it ru or re?
Okay, that's also one thing. It's not crew. Sanskrit is a language which is the way it is written, the way it will be pronounced. It's not
Right.
it's not like English, like Prabhupada would say put, put is put, but but is not but, it's but. You know, it's a non-phonetic language, they say. Phonetic is whatever is written, so each syllable will sound exactly the same in all circumstances. So this is not Krishna. Krishna would be like this. If we write, so it's Krishna, not Krishna.
So in Devanagari, how do you write this? Is it the ru or re that is attached to the k consonant?
Just
It's
a
just
minute.
Krishna. There's no other thing.
Because there is a ru and there is a re in that Vyanjana series that is attached to the consonant k here, right? Yeah.
It's like this. This one would be like this, Krishna, but it's Krishna.
Hari Parshad Prabhu has recently made I don't know if it's a video or an audio, saying that the is something that one should be able to continually pronounce. It's like you know, it shouldn't be some other. It shouldn't become some other vowel. It's just He's made a video about it.
So means like, what's the purpose of that video? Like that sound?
To say that it's not Cree or crew. It's just
Yeah,
Krr.
actually
One
it's
should
like
just
that.
be able to keep saying "krr" and not make some other vowel after it.
Okay, I'll just do that even. So now, even this Ra Rama and this Hri, they both are, okay, I'll write here. They both are cerebral, right? You know, even Ra and Hri. So what's the difference while pronouncing either of them or both of them? So let's say, like when we pronounce Ri, it takes one matra. Matra is like a unit of time, let's say like that, to pronounce Ri. But when we pronounce Hri, so I'll say it will be like, you know, half matra. We won't stop at Hri. It will be like a quick thing. We'll just pass over it. Hri. But when we pronounce Ri, like in India, they say rickshaw, you know, the rickshaw. So that Ri, we stay there for a while, Ri. But while pronouncing Hri, it's a quick thing. Hri. So that's my little understanding, the difference between Ri and the Hri, you know, the. So yeah, like that. Okay, Mataji? Charuta Mataji?
Yeah, because I grew up speaking Marathi, and in Marathi, the sound of that letter that you just wrote in Devanagari, I don't have Devanagari keypad in my the laptop here right now, but that re sound, we say it as ru sound, so that's why it is confusing for those who speak Marathi.
Okay. But in Sanskrit, it's Hri. It's not Ru.
Okay.
Okay. Then the Ta Varga, Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Na. Here, the tongue touches the upper teeth. If you try saying Ta, Tha, the, na. Is it happening? The tongue touching the upper teeth? So that's why it's dantya, dental varnas. Ta varga and two more letters, la and sa. La, sa. They are also dental varnas. Ta varga lasanam dantaha. Jiva Goswami says. Okay. Then the last varga is pa, pha, ba, bha, ma. They are pronounced from the contraction of the lips. So now you try pronouncing pa, pha, ba, bha. So the lips are coming in contact. Now try pronouncing pa without, the lips contracting each other. It cannot just happen. They have to come together. So pa. Now this second sound, generally we say it to be fa, like in English, but it's not fa, because when we say fa, then the lips are not coming together. It's the teeth and the lip, the upper lip, fa. Not the upper lip. Okay, the upper teeth and the lower lip come while pronouncing fa, but it's pa, pa. It's pa, not fa. Pa. So pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. So when we say fruit in Sanskrit, it's not phalam, it's phalam. It's not karma phalam, it's karma phalam. Okay, now while we pronounce Marathi, Hindi, or any other non-Sanskrit language, we may say fa. That's okay, accepted. But while we pronounce Sanskrit verse or anything, so it should come out as pha, not fa. So please take note of that. So these were the things. And we discussed this Talavya, Murdhanya, Dantya, and yes.
So with the semivowels, I think you said ya, ra, and la, but what happened to
Va.
maybe I missed where is that?
Okay. Va is Dantoshtam. Vakarasya Dantoshtam. So what happens in Va is Vakarasya Dantoshtam. It's a little special sound. There is a contact of teeth and the lip. So if you try saying va, what's happening is the upper teeth, I think, upper teeth is coming in contact with the lower lip. Va. Isn't it va? So even Jiva Goswami says in the Vritti here, Vakarasya Dantoshtam. Danta refers to the teeth and Oshta refers to the lip.
So then if we are in the habit of saying things like Ishwara and Dwaraka, so that's not correct. We should actually be saying Dwaraka and Ishvara.
Yeah, what you are saying is, because in English, I was reading that point even, especially the non-Indian, devotees, when they try pronouncing va, so it comes out like this, the pronunciation of W. And that is a little different from the va sound, the actual va sound. Like if I say whimsical, whimsical. So it might sound like va, but I'll say it's like 50% of va. It doesn't actually, the danta doesn't actually come in contact with the oshta, like va. It's whimsical. It's in the air. If you try pronouncing whimsical, so that sound is W sound, Dwarka and the other things which you said. So we should pronounce va, Dwaraka and Vrindavan and like that.
Yeah, so I mean in Bengali that sound is not even pronounced at all. It's like Dwaraka and Ishwara.
That is
Yeah.
va, like Brindabon, and so on. So that's
Yeah, either it's not pronounced at all or it's ba. So anyway, so being a Bengali, that's why I need to study the pronunciation carefully.
so yeah. So these were and the last sound is of course Anuswara. Anuswar is Shironasika. So like So it's a nasal sound, especially when you have cold or fever, it will come out naturally, like I have now. So like kangsa, and so on. The Visarga sound is also quite simple. It's a her sound, but it's like half her, like Krishna, Hari, Vishnu. So it's like the echo of the last vowel in the word. I'll say like that. So if we have a word like Hari, so this E is further echoed here, with an aspiration. So it's Hari, Hari. If we have word like Krishna, so this is being echoed in this, her sound. So it's not Krishna, her. Then it would be this. It's not Krishna, her. It's Krishna, Hari, Vishnu, and so on. Gopala, not Gopala. There is a difference between Gopala and Gopala. So it's Gopala, not Gopala. This would rather mean one who will kill Gopala. Ha stands for Hanta here. Like Kansaha. So Kansaha would mean the killer of Kansa. So Gopala would mean the killer of Gopala, and that's not a fact. So Gopala. So that's Visarga, Vishnu Sarga. Okay. Do we move ahead? Anything? So try pronouncing these things, and I don't want to get into the pronunciation thing here, although I do teach pronunciation and all. But I have made up few things here. Means our training to pronounce daily prayers, especially what we chant in our temples, beginning with Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra. And so even in many of the printed books that are available, there are many mistakes even in the written form, from a language point of view, I'm saying. So these things are verified by few of the scholars, what I teach generally. So we have Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra, then the Guru Ashtakam, so someday we can do this. We can just go through this.
So back to the letters. So I think after some time I learned how to distinguish the dental na and the retroflex
Cerebral. No.
cerebral. Yeah, no. But the other two, the ones that go in the ka varga and the cha varga, I don't know how. I mean, how one pronounces them differently.
Okay, so like the simple way of pronouncing these two letters is you stick to the place where you're pronouncing the ka varga, the rest of the ka varga from. So just ka, kha, just take note of the tongue where it is touching and just stay there and just pronounce that word. Ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. It will come out the same
I
place.
see.
because it's mainly about the place of pronunciation. The tongue should touch there. And similarly with the second one, cha, cha, again, just take note that the tongue still remains there. Cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else in pronunciation?
So you had the om with the dot over the m as anushwara in your prayers. Now, I specifically asked Hari Parshad Prabhu this question of, and he said that so if it's in the middle of omkar, then there should be a dot over the m. But if it's in a word, then there should not be a dot over the m.
Please repeat.
So a long time ago, someone had told me that in Bij mantras there's no external sandhi. They don't engage in sandhi. So, but I wanted to check with Hari Parshad Prabhu because there was this long document. So I asked him, and he said that if om is a word itself, it's not in the middle of another word, then there's no anushwara in om. It should be spelled with just an M, no dot over the M. Whereas if it is in the middle of a word like omkar is the word omkar is, there's an internal sandhi, then there should not be a dot over it.
So as per Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, like, because I'm a student of Harinamamrit, so I'll say according to that. So first of all, the point which you're mentioning that if it's a Bij mantra, then there is no sandhi. So this is the first time I'm hearing that point, and I didn't study that in Harinamamrit. So if it's Om and there is any word afterwards, for example, Namam, let's say it's Vishnu. And another instance could be we have Om and then we have something like Antaranga. So as per the Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, first of all, like when we write Om in Devanagari script, then it's Chandrabindu. So it's this. That's a different thing altogether. So ideally, means because Sanskrit is a phonetic language, so ideally there should be a Chandrabindu above M.
Right, but you change, you write that same that same thing, that same glyph that you just wrote. You write that same thing before Vishnu and before Antaranga.
No, I'm just doing this. So when we have M and we have a consonant after this, so as per here Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, we convert into this. Mo Vishnu Chakram Vishnu Jane. We'll be studying this sutra ahead. And when we have a swara, a vowel afterwards, so it remains the same. This is the general rule in Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, and there is no a particular mention, specific mention referring to the Bij mantras. Of course, there may be some comment by some acharyas in some commentaries here and there, but if it's talking of Harinamamrit and the commentaries of Harinamamrit, so there is no mention like this there, pertaining to the Bij mantras and Om and what happens to the Ma. And if it's Omkara, then ideally, as per Harinamamrit, it should be, of course, it may sound and look, because this Ma turns into this, first of all, and then this Anuswara turns into the nasal of the Varga which is following. I know, means we have never seen this and we have never seen this, means how does it appear in Vedabase? Like Omkara and all?
In Vedabase, it appears with a dot above in all cases. So this is why I had to specifically ask him, because what I typed was different from what the Vedabase does, but I did according to what he said. So I can put in the chat what he said. Anyway, so I don't want to hold up the class. Like, probably this is so we can talk about this separately.
So yeah, like that.
So the letter Om, is it a part of this Varnamala at all?
Yes. Okay. Which letter?
Om.
Actually, Om is a combination of A and U. you know.
Yeah.
And
U and
it's a special sound altogether. Generally, when A and U come together, then it turns into O, this O.
Yeah.
But that Om is in itself a special word. It's like Asamurdhvam, or there is none who can compare to that word Om, the Bij mantra. So that is different, and Om is always generally this one.
Mhm.
So these are the swara varnas, the vowels, and then ang, aha. Then these are the vargas, ka varga, cha varga, ta varga, ta varga, pa varga. I hope everyone knows these letters by heart, and if not, please do memorize all these letters by heart. The vowels in sequence and the consonants in sequence, all together, all the letters. So we have yara, lava, shasha, saha, ksha. So this ksha, although Jiva Goswami has included in the vritti amongst all the other letters, but it's not considered a separate word because it's just a combination of ka rama, ka, and sha, the cerebral sha, so which turns into ksha. But still, Jiva Goswami has included it. One edition of the text does not list ksha. There is some disagreement about whether ksha is part of the Sanskrit alphabet. So basically, ksha is combination of ka and ksha, this sha. So sometimes it's considered by some and not considered by some. Personally, I don't consider it because it's not a new word at all. It's just a combination. Like ta and ra turns into tra. So ka and sha turns into ksha. So nothing new. So
And
please.
where is the letter Nya from? Jnana or
that is also a combination of ja and nya. If you see in English, so it comes like this. So these are both from cha vargas, ja letter and nya. So like that. Okay. These are the numbers in Devanagari. The second sutra says, Tatradau Chaturdasha Sarveshwaraha. The first 14 varnas of the alphabet, which we just read, the Varna Krama, the full list. So amongst them, the first 14 varnas, they are called Sarveshwaras, which are the vowels of the Sanskrit alphabet. Okay, and they are a, I, U, Ri, Ri, A, I, O, Au. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Tatradu Chaturdasha. So they are Chaturdasha, 14 in number. Tasmin Varnakrame Adau Chaturdasha Varnaha Sarveshwara Namanah Bhavanti. The same thing. Tasmin Varnakrame, in that Varnakrama, Sanskrit alphabet, the first 14 letters, they are named as Sarveshwara. Others, they say it to be Swaravarnas, or some they say it to be Ach. Ete Swatantra Uchcharanaha. So the pronunciation of the vowels, the Sarveshwaras, are independent. They're not dependent on any other letter to be pronounced. So, for example, if we consider the consonants like ka, kha, and so on, okay, how do we pronounce this? Anyone?
Oh,
Ah,
Yeah, ka. Now, how do we pronounce this?
it's half of that.
Yeah, means that's a definition. Means we cannot pronounce it. We cannot. If we say ka, then rama, the sound is coming in. So that's how the pronunciation of ka is dependent on the inclusion of the Sarveshwaras. But the Sarveshwaras, they are independent because they do not need the help of any consonant to be pronounced. That's why Swatantra Uchcharanaha. Okay? Kadinam Uchcharanam cha esham adhinam iti Sarveshwara. And the same thing, ka adi, the pronunciation of the consonants beginning from ka, kha, and so on, they depend on the Sarveshwaras. Adhinam means they are subservient, dependent upon the mercy of the Sarveshwaras. Matra laghava matram putrotsava iti pare bhimanyante harinamaakshara labhadvayam tvamudrik tiras kurmaha. Now, in other systems, especially Panini, the swaras are known as ach, only ach, quite a short thing. But here, Jiva Goswami is naming it to be Sarveshwara, quite a big one. Sarveshwara, 4 syllables, and here only 1 syllable. So Jiva Goswami is saying, like someone may object, oh, that your sutras are not short enough, because the grammarians, whenever they compile, they write any sutras, they try their level best to write the sutras as short as they can. And the happiness they derive from, writing such shorter sutras is compared with the happiness of like a baby born in a house, a baby boy. Putra Utsava. Matra Laghava Matram Putra Utsava iti Paramanyante. So it's like a festival for them that they have compiled shorter sutras. But Jiva Goswami is saying that we do not care for them. We are already brahmacharis or sadhus or babajis. We do not care about that Putrotsava and Matra Laghava Matram. We will make bigger sutras, no problem. But we are happy. Why? Because Harinama Akshara Labhat. We are obtaining the holy names of the Lord in the sutras. So it doesn't matter much to us whether the sutras are short or long. The main point is that we are having Krishna's names everywhere, including the sutras. So amudrik tirastur kurmaha, that we do tiraskara of such people. Tiraskara in English would be we just neglect, we just don't care, we are just neutral to them and their feelings and their methodology of making short sutras and so on. Okay. The next is Dasha Dashavatara. The first chapter, this Sangya chapter, would sound little like because it mainly deals with the definitions. Now Jiva Goswami is defining different groups into different categories. So first of all, we had all the Varnakrama, including all the letters. Then the first category was the Sarveshwara. Now The next category is the first 10 varnas of the alphabet are called Dashavataras. Now, even amongst the Tatrado Chaturdasha Sarveshwaraha, the first 10 letters, varnas, are known as Dashavataras. These definitions are very important because the rest of the grammar is based upon these definitions. And so it's very important to memorize them and get them to the heart. So these 10 letters together are known as Dashavatara. Okay? Then Tesham Dvav Dvav Ekatmakau. Among the Dashavataras, which means these 10, both varnas of each consecutive pair are called Ekatmakas. So, okay, first of all, the word Ekatmakas, Ek Atmakas, same nature, like Ekatmaka Vapi Bhuvi Pura Deha Bhedam Gatautau. In CC it comes that Radha Krishna, they are Ekatmakau Api, even though they are one of one nature, or they are one soul, but Deha Bhedam Gatautau, they got into two bodies, they eternally have two bodies, even though they are one. So the Dashavataras, so both varnas of each consecutive pair. So for example, A and A, they are Ekatmakas, which means A is equal to A and A is equal to A. And of course, A is equal to A and A is equal to A. We'll see the usage of these things ahead, especially in Sandhi. E is equal to E. E is an Ekatmaka of this E, long E. U is equal to U, Ekatmakas. These two are Ekatmakas, and these two are Ekatmakas. Okay, how to pronounce this? This is also an interesting thing. This is, okay, anyone would like to try?
Ru.
Yeah,
Lul.
yes. So it's re sound, this we add l, so re. Okay, how do we pronounce this one? Any guess? Just to
Clear.
make again.
Lul.
Closer, but not that much. It's kri, because it's half ka, means it's half la, like with halanta, and then ri. So kri. So it's like a quick thing. Kri.
We don't usually see this, except I think it's in a verbal root, klurp,
Yeah.
but we don't see this letter in the scriptures so much.
Yeah, it's very rare. Even especially this Trivikrama one is like extinct version. So this is only in the dhatus, the roots to be seen. That's all. So Tesham Dvavda Vikatmako.
So why are they called the Dashavatars? These 10 letters.
For that, if you read the commentary, it's there, like the word
So
is,
actually, I checked my Telegram and I don't see any file attached anywhere. Did I miss anything in the messages, or how can I get it?
It is there, Mataji. You have to check because
now
I
you
could
can
download
check
it.
it. Now
Maybe it was added before I joined.
I
Yeah,
have
you have to pull up.
I have pinned, the You can check if it's there now.
So when you pin a message that was sent before I joined, all I see is you pinned a message, but I don't see the
Oh.
message.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll again send it to you.
Thank you.
It's in the group.
Even some form that you mentioned, I don't have that in any of my messages here.
Is it there
Yeah.
now?
Yes, I got it now.
Mhm. Yes.
So then we should memorize the correspondence of A is Matsya, A is Kurma, and so forth.
It's
Or
not
do we have to
necessary.
go
Means it's like
avatars in order to remember? I mean, is he going to use it later?
no, not at all.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, not at all. There is one devotee. Okay, I'll share something. What he did, Vijay Prabhu, I think he's from Orlando or some place, even I don't know which place. So what he did, to ease the memorization, he made PowerPoints, and if it says Dashavatara, so he pasted the pictures of Dashavataras, and he wrote by himself. Okay, Vamana is this and so quite an exercise actually. So I have that somewhere. I'll share. So this is Ekatmakas. Amongst the Dashavataras, both varnas of each consecutive pair are called Ekatmakas, individually and mutually. The two varnas A and A are Ekatmakas. The two varnas E and E are Ekatmakas, and so on. Needless to say, each varna among the Dashavataras is individually an Ekatmaka of itself. This sutra is stated to point out that they are also Ekatmakas of each other. So it simply means when we say A and the Trivikrama A, the long A, are Ekatmakas, so we have four possibilities, which means which A is equal to A is equal to the Trivikrama, the long A is equal to the long A, and the long A is equal to the short A. We'll get to know means what is the usage of getting into all these things in Sandhi, which is the next chapter. Okay. We'll do two more sutras today. Purvo Vamana. So now we have A, E, U, Ri, 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 Ri. Okay. Purvo Vamana. Now these 10 are the Dashavataras, right? So now here, Purvo means the first varna in each pair. Now this is a pair which is an Ekatmaka. These two are Ekatmakas likewise. Now amongst the Ekatmakas, the first varna in each pair of Ekatmakas is called Vamana. So these five are known as the Vamana Aksharas.
Isn't Vamana also the one for U, the short U?
Yeah, we have short U here.
Right. Oh, I see. So in the previous thing, he said that there are 10 vowels are the 10 Dashavatars, but now he's saying that 5 of them are all Vamana.
Yeah, like he's further categorizing into the Shavataras.
Okay, all right.
So these are all the Shavataras, the 10 of them. Now the first 5, now we divided into, Ekatmakas, 5 Ekatmakas. Now the first 5 of each, the first one of each Ekatmakas, collectively they are Vamanas. Vamana A, Vamana E, U. Vamana means short. Ete Rasvascha, and other systems, they say Vamana to be Hrasva or Laghu. Hrasva, Varna or Laghu. Laghu is also like short. Then the next sutra says Paras Trivikrama. The letter Varna in each pair of Ekatmakas is called Trivikrama. So in the later ones, they are known as Trivikramas. Other, they say to be Guru, Guru or Dirgha. Guru or Dirgha. So ours is Vamana. Others, they say to be Laghu or Hrasva. This is one thing. And the second is Trivikrama. So ours is, Trivikrama. Then some they say to be Guru or Dirgha Varnas. Okay. Is that okay?
So this ra in rasva is also the same as some languages have the word hruday. Is it made by joining ha and ra?
No, that in Hriday, that is Hri again,
Okay.
joined with her. But this we have a vowel with Ra Rama, with Ra letter. So it's simply Ra, Hrasva. Okay. Do we do one more? Okay, for today we'll just stop here because this is the first session and I don't want to scare you all with the sutras. But because we are doing twice a week, so I expect at least we do 15 to 20 sutras a week. Less than that would not sound good. So, and would not even work in a long run. So, any comments on how we can move ahead nicely if you have something to say or anything?
Dandavat. Yeah, I think it's good. 20 or 21 sutras per week, like you said, 3 per day, and we can study the sutras. So when we get to the class, we are a little bit fresh. So my question is, tomorrow we will see which sutras like to study.
Okay,
Tomorrow
so
morning before the class.
today we studied till Sutra 6. So tomorrow, next 10 sutras.
Okay.
Next 10 sutras.
Are we going to recite at the beginning?
I can ask randomly. So, I can ask randomly because then if everyone starts reciting, means it's okay with me, but again, the paucity of time.
Yeah, I have 2 suggestions, if you allow me.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I think it would be nice if you could recite them because you have the tune, you have the knowledge. So instead of us reciting, we can hear you reciting. And so we can learn from your pronunciation. And the other one is that maybe if we have like some personal questions, we can ask by the chat. So the class can be a little bit more fluent and more efficient. Yeah.
I was expecting that comment by anyone. Thank you for that, Prabhu. So
Dandavat.
we'll make sure about that.
So maybe now you can recite the first 16. So then we can, when we're memorizing it, we can remember your tune.
Okay. There is no tune, it's just simple recitation. So Narayana Bhutoyam Varna Kramaha. The first one. Then Tesham Tatradau Chaturdasha Sarveshwarah Dasha Dashavataraha Avarjitah Sarveshwara Ishwarah Purvo Vamanah Parastri Vikramaha Avarjitah Sarveshwara Ishwarah Dashavatara Ishaha. I think I missed Dashavatara, Dashavatara. So Dashavatara Ishaha. I U Anantah. I U Chatuh Sanah. Hri Chaturbhujah. ए ऐ ओ औ चतुर्व्यूहाः ang iti Vishnu chakram, iti Vishnu sarg. Okay, This is like more nasal sound. Ang iti Vishnu chapah, iti Vishnu sargah, kadayo Vishnu janah. So they are little really like just definitions. We just read them and go read the translation and we move ahead. So if we want, we can go till 20 even. So because, or we can just do 16 till 16 tomorrow.
You can maybe at least pronounce the last, you know,
Kadayo,
before,
okay.
from 17.
Uh-huh. So te mantaः panch panch Vishnu vargaः कचटतपा हरिकमलानि खचठथफा हरिखड्गाः गजडदबा हरिगदाः. Like that. Okay. Was it okay, Prabhu? Or Prabhu Mataji's? Everyone.
Thank you.
So we'll meet the same time tomorrow, like 7 p.m. IST and whatever your time is. So yes, thank you very much. And please do memorize the sutras and keep making notes or whatever way things sink in the brain easily. So Hare Krishna.
Jai. Dandavat. Hari bol.
Hare
Thank you
Bol.
so much. Dandavat
Hare
pranam.
Krishna.